Okay, my beauties. Today we are talking about strength training with your Yoni egg, or without, depending on what type of practice you're doing at the moment. So it's not just enough to do Kegels and think that that's all you've got to do, like to put your Yoni egg in and do some Kegels, and all of a sudden all of your ails are going to be resolved and you're going to have a magical vagina that is like a ninja that can go around and knock out whatever cocks it wants to play with. Just like developing any other set of muscles in the body, there is a science behind it, there's an art behind it, and there's also fun behind it. So the point of this video today is to take you through some of that so you can understand why just doing Kegels alone isn't going to get your goals coming into fruition, why you have to have strength training, how to engage powerfully all of your muscle fibers in your pelvic floor to accomplish this, and just some safe practices and tips so that you don't injure yourself along the way. So a funny story to drive this home. When I first started using Yoni eggs, I started with high tone dysfunction. So all of my muscles were super tight, and I wanted to see just how powerful they were. And I had seen some videos on using your Yoni eggs with weights and seeing how much weight you could lift to like increase the strength training, which if you are high tone and you're doing this with lots of conscious awareness and intention, if you fatigue your tight muscles by exerting them through strength and activation, this can be one way to relax your muscles. So like, I don't know if you were a kid and you ever went and you stood in a doorway and you put your fist and you like popped your arms out to the side and you held as long as you could. And then when you stepped forward and your arms were quivering, all of a sudden they felt way less, and all of us thought we'd been taken over by a ghost. Well, the same principle happens with fatiguing a muscle to get it to relax and gain flexibility back. So I had this idea that I was going to run around and fatigue my pelvic floor by lifting as much weight as I could so that I could relax and reset my muscles. This is coming from having years of experience in body work and muscle awareness, muscle activation, and safe practices. So I took a calculated guess to do this for myself. So I put in my extra large Yoni egg and I got my silk bag and I tied it up and I started dropping in coins and gemstones and anything I could find that had some weight. And I've, got a pound or two in there, and I'm like, this is easy. I could just walk around and make dinner with this Yoni egg and weighted bag dangling from my vagina. So let's kick up the intensity. So I'm going and I'm tying up any random thing I can find that I can tie onto a Yoni egg and eventually find my threshold. And I end up with a 6-pack of glass bottled root beers. I will test everything out before I bring it to you guys. This is my dedication to you. So I get this 6-pack of glass bottled root beers and I tie it to my Kegel egg and I start lifting with it. And lo and behold, I could get a few seconds of grip with it and I'm feeling on top of the world. And so I've fatigued my muscles, I'm quivering and shaking, and all of a sudden there is just all of this blood flow that happens and this sensory awakening, and my nerves were like, whoa. And for 3 days, I felt like I was in this constant state of hyper arousal, where if, the wind blew across my vulva, I would want to have an orgasm. It was out of this world. But I also strained some muscles, and it was a little uncomfortable to do my normal movements because our pelvic floor is our stabilizer. And so when you strain or you pull one of those muscles, you realize just how much you use those muscles for everything you take for granted. And anybody who's gone and done a really heavy leg day at the gym knows what I'm talking about. You don't realize how much you take getting out of your car or getting up off of the couch or walking up the stairs for granted until your body is telling you just how much it dislikes you. So all of this to say, being very conscious about your practice and starting with less instead of going, tits to the wall and full on out like I did, which some people are always going to do that no matter what. So you do you, boo. I am telling you to play it safe, play it smart, and build your way up, but you're going to do what you're going to do. So for all of the me's out there, get some Epsom salts. Okay, so let's jump into the information. I have put some of this in your text below. So if I skip over bits and pieces, you're going to find the detailed elements there. But this is to give you the overview. We're talking about slow twitch muscle fibers in strength. So you've got two types of muscle fibers in your body, fast twitch and slow twitch. And it's kind of self-explanatory what they do. All of those big, beefy Terry Crews-like Old Spice Man bodybuilder guys out there that are just pumped up and look like, big meatheads are doing a lot of strength training with heavy weights, really slow, deep movement because they are building those slow twitch muscle fibers. These muscle fibers harness all of your power, all of the deep activation and fire that you have in your movement. So if you're only developing those, you're losing your responsiveness and your quick movement. So, the whole analogy of like, if you were to put like a ninja up against a bodybuilder, who would win? Because the ninja is fast as fuck, so he can get out of the way and get some good strikes in. But if the bodybuilder gets a hold of that ninja, he could like pop his head like a pineapple. I don't know. Maybe this is me being raised with my brother that we have these kinds of conversations, but this is a good analogy of slow versus fast twitch muscle fibers. One of them is going to have you pinging all over the place and highly responsive and easy to engage and easy to activate, but it's not going to give you all of the deep power and strength that you need. So this is why you have slow twitch muscle fibers, and you need to be doing exercises to condition both. Strength is going to hit the slow twitch. So when you're doing your contractions, whether this is with an egg, without an egg, with a cock, with your finger, you're going to be doing really full, complete contractions, and you're going to be holding them as strongly as possible for a longer amount of time. So instead of doing 2 to 3 seconds, you're looking at 5 to 10 seconds where you're just really holding, really contracting. And when you add resistance to this in form of weights, or if you've got your lover's cock or a dildo or the Yoni egg and you do a really strong contraction and then you try to pull whatever it is out, so you're pulling against your muscle fibers. And this is going to give those fibers resistance, resistance to work against, so they're getting a deeper activation. So when you're doing all of these fun things, and there are notes below, the biggest thing you need to pay attention to is that you're breathing, just like with any strength training. Just because this is your vagina instead of 250 pounds in a leg press or a bench press doesn't mean you need to neglect safe practices. So you need to be doing your inhales and your exhales properly. You're going to inhale during your relaxing phase, and you're going to exhale during your contraction phase. So, tighten, and you're using that contraction and the compression of your diaphragm to give further juice into that contraction. Just and then relax, supple, soften. That is what you need to be doing with your strength in any kind of contraction. So pair those up when you're doing those. And if you're doing a longer hold for that 5 to 10 second phase and you need to breathe in between, go ahead and breathe. But make sure when you complete that contraction and you go into release, you're still pairing your inhalation with that surrender and relaxation of your muscles. Hope that's all making sense. All right, so now when you've decided whether or not you're going to use weights, you've decided if you're going to do it by yourself, what are you doing with these strong contractions? When you did the quad warm-up, you saw that you've got 4 different layers that we want to play with in your vaginal canal. So when you are doing your strength, you want to make sure that you're consciously activating all 4 layers all the way up, and then you hold. So whether you do just one full contraction or you try to do it layer by layer, either way, make sure that everything is engaged, lifted, and held and sustained for those 5 to 10 seconds. Start with as many seconds as you can. Women who have really weak pelvic floors are not going to be at a 5 to 10 second hold before their muscles collapse. This may only be 1 or 2 seconds. That's fine. Release when you need to release, because we don't want to be building improper layers. So if you get 1 to 2 seconds and then you feel parts of your vaginal canal collapsing, just fully release, relax, and stay just under that collapse range. So maybe it's 1 really strong second, and eventually over consistency with your practice, you're going to start adding on seconds to build up to 10 seconds. And you're going to want to start this practice initially laying down. All of your yoni egg practices should start laying down until you figure out where your strength and your tone is. Because if you have your yoni egg and you put it in and then you stand up and you've got very weak, low tone pelvic floor and it falls right out, that's not helping. So start all of those practices laying down. And when you want some resistance, you're going to provide it with your hand. So you're not going to be attaching weights or doing lunges and squats with your yoni egg. You're going to do all of this laying down, bend your knees, and just use your own finger strength to create some resistance to get that strength contraction going. Build from there. When you can stand up, or progress from the laying to the sitting, because that's going to give you a little bit more gravity. So when you can sit and keep your yoni egg in and do a 5 to 10 second hold, then you can move to standing. So you're going to want to be progressive. When you can lay and play pussy tug of war with yourself for 5 to 10 seconds successfully, sit. When you can do that for 5 to 10 seconds successfully, stand. When you can do that for 5 to 10 seconds successfully, start adding small amounts of weight. And this can be done with your little silk bag. If you order from Kegel, it's going to come with a beautiful black satin bag, and it's got a drawstring. So you can tie the drawstring to your string and start dropping in pennies or other gemstones. Everybody's got loose change laying around, so that's a pretty good one. But start dropping those in the bag until you feel that it takes effort to keep that yoni egg in, and then pause there. You don't need to run around with a 6-pack of root beer bottles like I did. That's silly until you want to go into like extreme vaginal strength training. But start with the coins, get to that quivering phase where it really takes effort. But if you're falling out after a second, then you need to decrease the weight and backtrack again. You only want to be increasing weight when you can do consecutive 5 to 10 second holds and still find that you can take more. So with any other strength conditioning like cycles, I think the 3 sets of 10 are a pretty good safe one to go with. So when you can do 3 sets of 10 and feel like, yeah, give me some more, then you can give yourself some more. I hope that makes sense. Let me just check my notes. When you're doing strength training and even the dexterity training, this could possibly happen. Anytime you're activating stagnated or weakened or over tight muscles, when the movement happens again, you can experience some cramping, some soreness, and everything else, just like with any other muscular workout. So if partway through or after your yoni egg practice, you feel like you're about to start your period, that can be normal. This is part of your muscles awakening, moving around again, and giving you feedback that they maybe did not care for what you have them doing now. So what I would recommend for that is if it's happening during your practice, that you just end the practice for that day, do some abdominal massage, do some vaginal massage, soak in an Epsom salt bath, stretch, do some more restorative work to get your body back in line, give yourself a day or two, and then start back less than where you were and build back up again. Be gentle with your body. There is no deadline or timeline that you need to be following, that if you're not toting around root beer bottles by week 2, then you're not doing it right. Your process, your progress, and your goals should all be completely unique to you, to your healing, and to your needs. So just give yourself some compassion there and be realistic about your goals. As long as you're seeing some improvement over the course of your consistency in your workouts, that's what we're looking for. So strength training can be really fantastic for helping to resolve issues of, one, high tone, because you've got too much going on. But if you're doing strength training with high tone tension, you need to make sure that you're relaxing twice as long as you're contracting. And after your practice, you need to do lots of vaginal massage. Don't be afraid to get a crystal wand or a dildo in there, not necessarily for masturbation practices, but just to have an internal massage tool. And do some really good swirls and circles all the way up from your cervix, all the way down and out of your vaginal canal. And really just give yourself a good opening and relaxing massage after your strength training. Because yes, you want to develop those fibers, but you've got to make sure they're relaxing afterwards. And that's what's going to be so therapeutic for you. If you're starting with low tone, then you want to make sure you're laying down, you're starting with less, and you're taking a lot of time to build things up. And one trick for clients who are dealing with prolapse is you can even kind of like invert yourself by putting pillows under your hips or a wedge, and start doing your contractions with gravity working in your favor. So you're holding all of your organs further up into your abdominal cavity, and your pelvic floor gets to come back up into its normal upright and supportive position because gravity is helping you, and you can do some of your yoni egg exercises from that way. So just play around with it. Some of this is going to be intuitive, and some of it is going to be obviously smart and science savvy. If you have any questions, then reach out and let me know. But that's the general overview here, and you can find some more detailed guidance in the text below. Thank you very much. Your homework is obviously to play with some of your strength exercises.